Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. So today, if you haven't seen part 1 already, I think I'll put a card or like that little thingy that comes out up here if I can remember to do so when I upload to part 1. You don't have to watch these in order, but I do recommend you watch part 1 and I will leave a card at the end of the video if you just want to watch that one after. But today is part 2 of Haunted Hometown, Amarillo, Texas. So before I get started, make sure you have your coffee or your drink of choice. And be sure and hit that subscribe button down below, or I think it's always down below now. They used to be like on the side, now it's down below. Always hit that subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up if you like this kind of stuff. I am trying to put out a Wicked Wednesday every Wednesday. I do have ups and downs because these are harder videos to film. I also need to be in a certain headspace to film the spookies. So interaction always helps on my channel. It helps me get noticed. I'm an itty bitty little YouTuber. So last week we left ghosts. Yeah, last week we left ghosts. This week let's leave a black heart emoji down below, because like I said, interaction, or leave suggestions for haunted hometowns you want me to do, or cryptids that you want me to look into, certain locations, anything like that. I am always down. Currently I'm researching the Mothman because that was a requested video. But after that one, then I will move on to the next request. So I'm gonna go ahead and get into the stories because I'm done babbling. I'm also kind of sweating, also super hyped on caffeine. If you watched the last video, I'm still hyped. So let's get going. Okay, so this first one is submitted by Anonymous. It's super short, and again, if you're a local, you probably know this story, but this is kind of just like a little like snippet, opinion, that kind of thing. It's spooky, but not a ghost. Sorry, but my life was more story than this. I lived this. Pinkerton killed this woman before I was born. He also lived next door to me as a baby. From the time I was a baby, I knew he was there. He killed the first on my mom's B-Day. He lived across the street from me. I was 1. My mom told me about this monster. Pinkerton has been the same since I was born. I hate him. And somebody says, please, I grew up around the Pinkertons and he was not always a monster. And then somebody says, you mean J. Kelly Pinkerton. Let's look them up because I'm curious now. They were executed in 1986. And they're in the Murderpedia. Let's see. Okay, so straight up, it's like getting dark out now, and it sounded like somebody was just walking up my stairs. And I'm home alone, and I know it wasn't Aaron because he's on an island. Maybe it's just my cat. We're gonna pretend it was my cat. Okay, so it is J. Kelly Pinkerton. I'm assuming that's who they're talking about, and this was a juvenile, and he was convicted for rape and robberies, and method of murder, stabbing with knife, executed by lethal injection in Texas because Texas has the death penalty. So he killed 2 people. It's, okay, a native to Amarillo, Texas, and he dropped out of school at 17 to be an apprentice butcher. I mean, I'm not going to be the one who says your story is not true because I would hate if somebody told me that. Alright, so this next one was submitted by A. The house my mother was raised in, almost 60 years old, and my mom is almost 46. My grandpa passed away in 2003, and ever since then, when I stay with my grandma on my own, I can smell him, my grandpa, in the most random places. Dining room, living room, den, bathroom. It smells like dirt and sweat. Being that he used to work out at the cotton gin and cattle lot, it really creeped me out. Then, once at my aunt's house, she lived out in the country at the time, so they had their own dumpster rented. My aunt's partner went out to take out the trash, and for some odd reason, heard my grandpa's laughter. So strange. I haven't seen any ghost sightings or anything, but I think that was enough. It's scary to be haunted, like 100%, that, like, not knowing what is around you, and the idea of an afterlife and like people stuck here or people doing things here is scary. I completely get that, but to me this doesn't seem like something that was meant to be scary. Maybe your grandpa just wants you to know that they're still around, that maybe they're your guardian angel if you believe in that kind of stuff. Maybe they're just your guardian. Maybe it's just a residual haunting. The whole like ghost thing, is so much up for debate. Maybe his soul can come back here sometimes to watch over you. Maybe it's just a like residual haunting where the soul is not attached, but maybe if he built the house, blood, sweat, and tears went into that house. So that is something that people get attached to. So it makes sense to be haunting that space. So that would make sense to still stick around to a place that if you built it yourself. And I'm just grasping for straws here. Maybe he built it himself. There's another one in here that they're saying that their school is haunted, that they hear voices say their names, and when they look around, nobody's there. People asked them which school they go to, but they never responded. But there are some really, really old schools there. At least I know the one my mom went to is really old. So I'm sure there's other old schools there as well. There's also new schools there. The entire neighborhood north of Martin Luther King Boulevard, 24th, especially on Osage and Echo, where it meets Lindbergh, has tons of activity. I was told there used to be a large mansion covering that area, which may be an explanation. And no one who lives there will talk about the activities in the houses. It's only when in a safe area the residents feel safe to talk about the phenomena. And that's downtown around Lincoln and 6th. And someone says, there used to be a landfill over there when I was little. I used to see them dumping and bulldozing, no one telling who was there or what has been covered up. And looking through these guys, there are tons, from what it looks like, tons of ghost hunters, or at least there's a couple that I'm seeing regularly, like telling people, hey, I can come investigate your house, which to me is really cool. I think that's what like platforms like Reddit and different like forums, which is where I find these stories, are really cool. I mean, it gives us a spot for people to talk, share stories, just get it off of your chest, or look for answers. And also investigators can reach out to you and connect, or you can reach out to investigators and they can come in and you can get even more answers. So I think that's really cool. It's cool to see that kind of stuff, particularly with Amarillo. I don't really see that with a lot of other locations. So maybe Amarillo has a lot of ghost hunters. All right, so the next one. A couple of years ago, I lived in a house on South Alabama that was very haunted. My grandmother, my children, and I moved into this 2-bedroom home that was at first a very charming little house, and soon turned into a living nightmare. About a week after moving in, my family and I were sitting in the living room when we saw a man out of the corner of our eye walk past the windows outside. So I jumped up thinking it might be someone trying to steal something out of the yard or possibly break in, and no sooner than me getting to the door and out onto the porch, he was gone. There was no way he could have ran that fast out of sight, and I walked around the whole house and he had just vanished. Absolutely no trace of this man. I disregarded the incident because you don't hear too much of ghosts being outside of the house, and at first, a ghost was the last thing on my mind. A couple more days went by without incident. So one afternoon, my grandmother was laying on the couch watching TV, and she called me to come into the living room. I went, and she told me that she had seen an apparition of a man in her room, and it walked into her closet and disappeared. I immediately freaked out, and she wasn't shaken by it at all. She just kept saying it didn't scare her, but it scared the hell out of me. I tried lying to myself so I could cope with living in the house, because moving at that point wasn't an option. There was a back room to the house that was always very strange and had a very creepy feel to it, always so refrained. I refrained from going into it as much as possible, but off of that room was another tiny room that had a bare light bulb hanging from the ceiling, and no matter what the weather was like outside, the funny thing about it is that little room stayed hot all the time. I was in the kitchen doing dishes and heard a god-awful noise in the back room. I went back there, and there were boxes thrown from one side of the room to the other, up against that door to the other small room. I nearly screamed when I saw what had actually happened. I guess this man didn't want anyone in that room, and I damned sure wasn't going, and it was actually hard to breathe. I had many nights and mornings where I would wake up in pure confusion for the first 30 seconds of not knowing where I was and what happened all the time. My son was sleeping with me one night, and he was about 6 years old at the time, and he jumped up out of bed screaming. I woke up in a panic, not knowing what had happened, and he told me that he had been laying there awake, and something touched him on his side, as if I would have put my hand around him, but he kept telling me, "Mama, it wasn't you. You were asleep, and I was awake, and there was no one there, but something was touching me." And at this point, I was getting scared and fed up, and he was scaring my children, and I couldn't let them live this way. I was figuring out how to get moved again, and as soon as possible, but I had to at least wait a couple more weeks, so of course, the time dragged by. My brother, his wife, and 2 kids came to visit from Post, Texas. I had told him some of the things happening, and he's 6'3" and weighs in at 230 pounds. So of course he wasn't scared and thought it was kind of funny. Well, that evening, the lamp in the corner flashed on and off a couple of times, and they had just blew it off. But when my ex-husband was standing in the living room and the thermostat flew off the wall and hit him in the back, that took the smile off my brother's face. We went to bed, and he woke up around 5 a.m. to get a drink of water and saw my brother and his wife sitting up on the couch fully dressed and awake. I thought they were leaving town already, and I asked him what's going on, and he told me I got dressed so if I had to, I can run out of the house. I kind of smiled because I knew he had gotten a taste of the spirit, and he was actually scared, and I've never seen my big brother scared of anything or anybody before. He said he didn't see anything, but the lamp kept them awake, going off and on, and he can hear an old man talking all night, but it sounded like it was coming from the corner, and the lamp was on, like the voice was in dead air. Our last week there, we talked to some of our neighbors who lived across the street. I never mentioned the haunting, but they did ask my ex-husband if he sat up all night watching TV. My husband told them no, and they said that they always saw a shadow of a man sitting on the couch watching TV. And that absolutely floored me. Not only were we seeing it, but so were the neighbors. This ghost didn't care who saw or heard him. Our last night in the house, I noticed the water was running in the backyard, and that was a regular occurrence. I asked my husband if he would go out there and turn it off because I was afraid to even go outside at dark in the house because of this ghost was haunting the inside and outside of our home. My ex-husband came in the house bleeding all down his arm. I freaked out, and when he turned the water off, something had cut him badly, and this ghost, while alive, must have watered all the time because there were 7 beautiful rose bushes in the backyard, and the water always had a way of being turned on. We finally took our belongings and moved out of that home, and I drive by every now and then just to see if someone else is renting the home, wondering if they are having the same problems that our family had. Whoever haunts the home didn't feel they will ever leave, and I hope he doesn't ever hurt anyone. Beware of this house, and if you ever drive by, you just might see this ghost sitting on the couch watching TV. So there are a couple of people commenting, asking, which house is this? Which house is this? I live on this street, or they want to research it. And I mean, that's pretty creepy, to be completely honest with you. I would feel bad, like, selling that house to somebody or renting that house to somebody knowing that it's so haunted. Like, yeah, of course you want to get out, but you also don't want to have, like, a financial burden. But, like, I also don't want to burden somebody else with that terror, you know? Okay, so this next one is submitted by Ray. This one's a short one. It says, okay, I'm 14, and this happened when I was 14. I stayed with my grandma one night, and I went to sleep around 3:30 p.m. After a while, I felt someone touching my head, but I thought it was my grandma, so I got up and there was nobody there. I looked around for like 5 minutes. I saw a dark shadow looking straight at me. I ran out of the house and it followed after me. I kept looking at it, but it wasn't there anymore. I walked to my mom's and I saw it again. I ran back to my grandma's and I laid down and closed my eyes and fell asleep. But before I fell asleep, I heard it call my name and touch my head. Oh, that's kind of creepy. Like, sorry, my phone's vibrating. No. If it followed after you, no. That's a strong no for me. I don't know what that would be. What kind of ghosts, like, follow people? Demons? Shadow people? So we're just going to do a couple more short ones I'm trying to find. There's a ton. So apparently Amarillo is really, really haunted. Okay, so my mom took a pic of our yard, and there was a lady in a blue dress with no head. I got really creeped out, so I searched my house, and it said a lady died there. Her husband killed her. Creepy. That was submitted by Lexi, and that's super small, but that's creepy though. I would love to see that photo. I would love to see it. I wish she attached it. This is submitted by Anonymous. I just moved on Forest Street in a house. The first week here, I felt good that I had found a house that I liked, but my baby, he is not liking it so well. He looks like he is looking at someone, and he hides his face from it when we are in my room. He keeps looking in the hallway. Then he will get out of bed and shut the door. The light flicker on and off at night, but in the morning they are fine. My sister and her kids came this week to see my son. We were standing at the computer looking at videos, and I didn't know that my sister was taking pictures of us. Well, they left, but they returned 3 days later, and my nephew asked my sister, "Did you show Auntie the picture?" And my sister said, "No, I'm not showing that to her." Then I asked what they were talking about. They told me that they had taken a picture of my baby when we were standing at the desk, and that there was a face in the picture, that my baby was looking right through it, and that the face was looking straight at my baby. Well, I instantly got worried because just last week I was sitting at the desk at the computer and I felt like someone put their hand on my back. It left a cold spot there and chill bumps. Then later on that night, I went to my son's room for something, and it was like someone touched my ankle, and it felt like a cold finger touched me. Ooh, oh, that's kind of creepy. My cat just came running in here. That was, bad timing. But that is everything for this video. It's showing me 25 minutes long on my end. I'm obviously going to cut it down so it's not going to be that long. But if you guys like this kind of stuff, please give it a thumbs up. I love reading these things, but it's getting kind of spooky in my house right now, so I'm going to stop. But yeah, I hope you guys have a fantastic night or day, whatever it is, wherever you are, and stay safe, happy, healthy, and spooky. Bye.